My name is Christina Dow, and I am completing my capstone research project in fulfillment of the capstone research requirement from Georgetown College. I examined the question, what effect does professional development on second language theory have on elementary mainstream teachers' attitudes towards and skills of teaching ELLs?
ELLs are the fastest growing student population in the country, growing 60% in the last decade, as compared with a 7% growth of the general student population. So attending professional development is a critical component for classroom teachers across the United States, and especially for those who are overcoming the challenges of creating effective classroom instruction for ESL, or English as a Second Language, student populations. Quality instruction to English language learners involves a teacher who is proficient in a range of curricular and instructional approaches. Ongoing professional development allows mainstream teachers to communicate their ideas and concerns and support each other in finding ways to work effectively with ELLs. This research project presents the findings of a triangulated mixed method study aimed at assessing mainstream teachers' attitudes and skills towards ELLs.
I found several recurring themes in my connections to my literature review. One of them was the importance of studying teacher attitudes. According to both McKinney as well as Walker, Schaefer, and Liams, they found that teachers make judgments about future student achievement based on classroom coursework and perceived student capability. For the impact teachers' attitudes and beliefs have on ELL students, according to Reeves and Captain, teachers' language acquisition misconceptions may actually influence their attitudes toward ELLs and ELL inclusion, which guides educators to misdiagnose learning difficulties or misattribute student failure to lack of intelligence or effort. The last connection I found was the importance of professional development. According to McKinney, the National Center for Education Statistics reported that nearly half of the teachers surveyed had ever worked with ELLs. However, few had received more than 8 hours or ELL-specific professional development. Before starting my research, I thought that teachers in my school community would not have had any prior experience working with ELL students. In the years I've been teaching there, we have not had ESL students before. However, after sending out the pre-survey, I found that only one teacher had no prior knowledge. In fact, in one of the teacher interviews, one teacher stated that I have had students in past years teaching and would want them in my classroom. Qualitative and quantitative data were collected through surveys, interviews, and classroom observations. Mertler states the combination of both types of data tends to provide a better understanding of a research problem than one type of data in isolation. The pre-survey and post-survey contain questions regarding their attitudes and beliefs about various topics, such as whether they feel prepared to teach an ELL student, if they would welcome an ELL student in their classroom, if they would want more training on teaching ELL students, if they are prepared to modify instruction for these students, etc. The interview gave a more detailed and comprehensive take on the teachers' answers and got feedback from teachers on what they felt was the most important takeaway from the PD, as well as an explanation on their attitudes concerning teaching those who are learning English as a second language. Participants were mainstream kindergarten through fifth grade school teachers who teach in a private school located in central Kentucky. These teachers who have volunteered had no experience or prior knowledge on working with English language learners and would benefit from attending a professional development on second language. Participants' confidentiality was protected since the school name was not mentioned, as well as their names were not recorded in any documents or interviews. Teachers gave written consent on their participation within this study. Their surveys were conducted through Google Documents, and the results were only seen by the researcher. After the data was analyzed, the survey responses were erased. The individual teacher interviews were recorded on my iPad, as well as I typed the responses into a Word document using my iPad. At the conclusion of my research project, the data was deleted from my device. Teachers were given a pre-survey using a 5-point Likert scale to determine their attitudes and viewpoints toward English language learners. This Likert scale consisted of strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, and strongly agree statements. Survey statements include themes on knowledge of second language acquisition, teacher self-efficacy, working with English language learners, and teacher attitudes about having ELLs in their classroom. After the professional development on second language theory, teachers were given a post-survey with similar questions using the same 5-point Likert scale to see if their answers have changed. To triangulate the data, teachers were also interviewed in order to get a more comprehensive take on their answers and get feedback from teachers on what they felt was the most important takeaway from the PD, as well as an explanation on their attitudes concerning teaching those who are learning English as a second language.
The interviews were recorded and transcribed. After each set of data had been analyzed separately, I then looked at the data for emerging themes that clarified the effects the professional development had on teachers' attitudes toward English language learner students and the skills and strategies needed to provide quality classroom instruction. Many teachers felt that having English language learner students within their classroom would increase the amount of work they would have to do. This misconception lies with the fact that most of these participants either did not have any training with working and teaching ELLs or their experience with these students were over 10 years ago. According to the chart on this page, you can notice that after the professional development, teachers' attitudes about increasing the amount of work they would have to do were impacted. The blue shows the pre-survey responses where most teachers agreed or strongly agreed with the statement. After the professional development, the teachers disagreed or strongly agreed with the statement. Teacher responses to the pre-survey question about reasons that they would not want an English language learner in their classroom consisted of the following. They either thought they needed extra time needed to communicate with the student or family, and the need to find support with lessons, that they did not have adequate materials at the time, they would need more administrative support, and they thought there would be repercussions from other parents in the building. They also thought that they did not have the materials needed to teach them properly, nor the money to buy what would be most useful. With the effect of inclusion on the classroom learning environment, teachers are troubled about the likelihood that ELLs will slow the class progress through the curriculum or result in inequities in educational opportunities for all students. Many teacher responses revolved around the lack of resources and the need for support in teaching effectively and including all students. This chart here shows the teacher responses for the question, do ELLs tend to develop social English proficiency, such as the ability to speak English with their peers, more rapidly than academic English proficiency? Again, the blue answers show the answers to the pre-survey question, where the red shows the answers to the post-survey question. After attending the professional development on second language learning, teacher responses to the understanding of social versus academic language resulted in a significant jump in teacher attitudes. While we discussed cognitive academic language proficiency, or CALP, and basic interpersonal communication skills, BICS, during the professional development, teachers were able to understand the difference and importance that both types of language has on an ELL. Being able to distinguish between BICS, and CALP will provide these teachers with a useful foundation to observe and alter their beliefs about second language learning and teaching, as well as contributing instructional support for ELLs in the school environment. Failure to take account of the BICS and CALP distinction has resulted in discriminatory psychological assessment of bilingual students and premature exit from language support programs into mainstream classes. If teachers feel comfortable with understanding how students learn a second language, their attitudes toward English language learner students will be more positive.
There were two significant themes that I felt not only related to my literature, but to my project as well. One of those was perceptions of the second language acquisition process. Habib stated that teachers' views, attitudes, and approaches for leading classrooms have a direct and indirect role in influencing a child's academic experience. According to Schoenfeld, teachers' perceptions, beliefs, and attitudes greatly influence not only how, but what he or she teaches. Theories of second language acquisition. The iceberg theory by Cummins contains basic interpersonal communication skills, and cognitive academic language proficiency. BICS is at the tip of the iceberg and are the language skills essential for everyday communication, whereas CALP is at the base of the iceberg. CALP integrates application, comprehension, and understanding of academic language and the capability to examine, create, and evaluate content. There is a need for teachers to obtain more knowledge relating to ELL students' home language and its effect on academic achievement, as well as the need for more teachers to understand the elements of second language learning. Given the significant increase in the ELL population, with a lack of training specific to ELLs the teachers have received for working with them, professional development should become a high priority for districts across the nation. Teachers' perceptions that they lack adequate training to work with English language learners is troubling in light of the increasing numbers of them throughout the nation. Teachers also being more reluctant to working with the student population may come from a lack of skills in training and working with English language learners.
Following the professional development and during the individual teacher interviews, I asked how they felt with having an ELO in their classroom and why. A sample of these answers included, I can't think of a reason that they couldn't be in my classroom. Yes, it would take more planning time for me, but I think they can learn with other students, and the other students could learn from them. Another teacher wrote that I would want them in my classroom, and I've had them in past years teaching. The graph on this page shows the teacher responses for I am interested in receiving more training and working with ELL students. The blue answers are the pre-survey question where most of them were neutral, with one or two saying agree or disagree. After the professional development, there was a significant jump in responses. With very little training on second language acquisition or strategies to use when planning a lesson, along with no extra planning time, teachers can quickly become frustrated and experience feelings of inadequacy or even resentment towards this group of students. The post-survey results and the individual teacher interviews show how much teachers can benefit from professional development training and help alleviate these negative feelings towards these type of students. When we can change these misconceptions, then we can create a more positive classroom environment for all students and teachers.